Good morning, and thank you for being with us. In the period of 1 week this month, 3 police officers from 3 different departments, Prospect, Hartford, and Wallingford, found themselves in situations in which they discharged their weapons, resulting in the deaths of the suspects involved. In September in Orange, a police officer fired his gun during an altercation after a shoplifting call. The suspect in that case survived. 1 month earlier in August, police responding to a stolen car report found the suspect inside a car in a tire shop and shot him as he tried to drive away with the officer inside the car. That suspect died at the hospital. In each of these cases, the Inspector General's office was called in to investigate. Here to talk about the responsibilities of that office is Connecticut's Inspector General, Robert Devlin. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Eric.
Obviously, your office is busy. You have a lot of work. It's probably one of those jobs where you wish you didn't, because no matter whether the shootings are justified or not justified, something bad has happened to lead to that. As you look back at your time in this newly created role, do you have a feel for if it's working?
Well, I think the role is working. I think our unit is working great. I mean, we have some wonderful investigators that do a very thorough job in these cases. We've developed great relationships with police officers and police agencies around Connecticut, and it's all working quite well, actually.
Do you see your role as working in collaboration with the police officers, a different job outside, a different, you're sort of in between the public and the police. Is that a fair description?
No, you are. I mean, but we have a relationship with the state police in terms of their investigations. Ultimately, I mean, the reason this job exists is to make an independent, unbiased view of these cases, and that's what it's all about.
The stats are right on your website, and transparency has certainly been a hallmark of this position since you've taken the job. 2021, 6 reports complete. 2022, 6 complete and 2 pending, and 10 pending right now in 2023. Did you have a feel going in for what the workload would be like? And not workload meaning hours you're spending, but just for the agency.
You know, we had a vague idea of that, but as we've gone through it, first off, these things are totally unpredictable. So we had 3 in a week, but you'll go months without one. So it's a very sort of, it's not like something you can predict with any certainty. But in terms of the transparency part of that, I've always thought that was a central part of our unit. I mean, the idea of being able to let the public know what we know so they can evaluate it themselves, that's important.
I think transparency, one big thing that people at home would notice is after one of these incidents, video is often available very quickly. And I know there's statutory guidelines, and your office weighed in a little bit on how those statutory guidelines work. But just as a practical matter, what is the importance in your view of that video being out there so quickly after a shooting if those body cameras that the police are wearing are rolling?
Well, the public gets to see what happened, okay? And they can make some, I think, preliminary sort of judgments about what happened, which is fine. We don't do it that way. But I mean, I want to put out there as much as we can relevant videos so that, the people on the street can really understand what we're doing. And it's not like this big opaque sort of unit that we're working at. They can see it and make an evaluation themselves.
So if you get the video out there, does it take away the chance that somebody's hiding something? Does it allow people to see with their own eyes? What's the goal, and what do you hope the response is when us and other media members share that video?
It gives some credibility to the actual. I mean, I think the videos almost always help police officers in Connecticut. I mean, I know there was some resistance to it when that was proposed by the legislature, but our experience has been it's very helpful to the police officers because you see what happened in real time, and it's really quite important, I think, for that regard. But the public itself, they don't have to take my word for it. They can see themselves, what happened, and that's important.
You mentioned when you were talking about the videos in your first answer, you said that you don't just take that as the conclusion, and you do long deliberative work.
Right.
And I think one thing that people who don't do that work and haven't sat on the bench as you did for many years, overseeing criminal trials, might look at a video, say the Bristol shooting, that was over a year ago, and the final report is not out. And I think somebody might look at that and say, Mr. Devlin, I saw the video. I saw the morning of those officers who were shot. I've come to a conclusion, some person in the public might say, that was a justified shooting. But your report's not out, and that might be hard for someone to understand. Behind the scenes, what's the work that's happening there?
Well, I mean, the state police probably seized over 100 pieces of evidence there, which they're carefully analyzing. We are talking, I mean, it's a matter of actually carefully, meticulously, painstakingly going through this evidence, understanding what it says. And this particular case, Bristol, trying to look at maybe some of the background information to get some look at the why of the whole situation. But, these reports hopefully are going to stand the test of time. I've just done this job for 2 years, but I've really tried to write the reports carefully. And because people are going to, like, for example, people study police ambushes in America. It's a terrible thing. It's an important thing to understand. If you can get some information that might be predictive of some maybe future event. So these reports have to be really carefully done. And it takes time to do it. And that's the reason for it.
Often, especially after high publicity, high profile incidents, there's a preliminary report that goes out.
Right.
What's the difference between that and what will be in the final report?
Oh, my goodness. So the preliminary report, by statute, has to have some just bare bones information about the people involved, the police agency, the officer involved, and some basic information like that. But I mean, in our reports, they're probably 30, 40, 50 pages long. I mean, they're really trying to look at every piece of evidence that was seized, every piece of digital evidence that was seized, analyze that. And, you know, sometimes, I mean, ordinary witnesses, I mean, digital evidence is great, but sometimes just ordinary statements from regular witnesses who see something are quite important. So we integrate all that information into our reports.
And should a member of the public, maybe who goes on your website and looks at dates and what's still pending, should they read anything into the time? Does it mean that you're unsure of the outcome, or is there maybe just work that's being done? Like, what should a person in the public take from what time has elapsed?
Yeah, they should draw no conclusions from that about anything about the report itself. The way our work works, we have an incident like 3 last week, and we stop everything. And we have to focus on that incident right then and there and work on that, because oftentimes the first 48 hours of these things are the key periods of time to get the most important information. So we work on these reports a lot, but you should draw no conclusions from the fact that it takes a while to get them out.
I think people in the public may not even have thought about that. I know there has been a highly publicized report. Trooper Brian North, you investigated that case and said that you didn't feel there was anyone's life in danger when he fired his weapon, and he ended up being charged with manslaughter. He's going to trial probably in early 24. Is that the conclusion of your work, or do you still participate in that prosecution?
No, I am the state's attorney is going to be prosecuting that case in the Milford Court. We're set to start jury selection on January 24th, and I would emphasize Mr. North is presumed innocent, and the court process will work on his case. Does it make a difference? I don't know how to say it, but does it make a difference to you as you investigate the cases, your early indications of what the evidence is, or is it really just compiling everything? You know, we used to tell jurors, wait until the end before you make a decision, because that last piece of evidence that you hear in court may change your thinking. And so if you start getting preliminary judgments, it may affect you and not let you really absorb the importance of later information. So, yeah, I've spent my life on that, so I wait.
Just one last thing, and we're almost out of time, but I know a big part of your role over these last couple of years has been community outreach. You've done classes for police officers and police leadership, but there's also pictures of you with kids, with your arms around kids at career days and things like that. Why is that important? I
think this office needs to, I think police agencies, political leaders need to understand what we're doing. And so that's part of our work. We have a lot of outreach work, community leaders, church leaders, and it's been great. The students, they're really interested in the court system. They're really, and I can use it sometimes as a way to, I've had a lot of young people as a judge that have come in front of court. I see things, groupthink and other things that can get kids into trouble. So we try to use that as an opportunity to entertain them, get them thinking about the court system, but also maybe give them some guidance. Well, and certainly the message has been transparency is good. I think that would probably be an overwhelming theme of your time in that office. Whether it's talking to kids or talking to community groups or putting out these reports and the videos, I hope people have appreciated that, and I appreciate you coming back on to talk about it, and I'm sure your work will continue, and we'll have you back on hopefully in the future. Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. Robert Devlin, the Inspector General, thanks for being with us.